And I know you were talking about wanting to expand it and maybe start a women's rugby league, right?
Correct.
When does that like start, or when are you starting recruiting? Or
So the Big Red Rugby League itself is co-ed. And kind of how it works is when you're 5 years old to about 10 years old, you play flag rugby. So you learn how to catch and pass and run. And then when you go up 11 years and above, you learn how to tackle. We play tackle rugby.
Okay.
When it goes to that tackle, in the middle school age groups and below, a little bit below, there is co-ed rugby.
Well, hello. You're listening to Oh My Omaha, the podcast, where we uncover inspiring things about our community through the stories of inspiring people who call it home. I am Dee Harrell, and this is the creator of Oh My Omaha, the blog, and the blogosphere's friendliest face herself, Kim Reiner.
Hi there.
What up, Kim?
Hey, long time no see.
I know. It feels so weird. I'm so
I
sorry.
know. It's that time of year.
I did price out, like, for future reference, there will be a fat head of me, because I honestly, I wrote you that as a joke on set, and I was like, I priced it out with the client that I was working with.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, we got a great deal over at so-and-so. Yeah, they're like, let's get you a fat head. I was like, please. So there will
just
be
have
a
you
fat
on the
head.
couch and
Just in,
okay.
Just in case.
Okay.
Just for the conflict.
Make me feel like I have.
I am making one of you too.
Oh.
Just in case. I won't do it without you. I'm just saying, just in case. So
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
But what have you been up to?
We were doing like the last weekend of summer, kind
Yeah.
of fit it all in, and we went to the state fair for the very first time in many years.
Oh gosh, yeah.
And it was about as much as I remember it. It wasn't as hot as it usually is. It's usually
Yeah.
like ridiculously hot, but just super expensive. And
Yeah, why is it so expensive? It's a state fair. I did wonder that, like, the last time. I mean, my kids are old now, but when
Yeah.
I went, I was like, good night. Like,
Well,
it costs so much.
they wanted to do all the carnival rides, and so it just seemed like it made more sense to do like the wristband sort of deal. And the wristbands are like $40.
Yeah,
I'm like, okay, well, you guys can go on rides for a long time. And they were tired of rides after 3 rides.
of course.
And then they wanted to do, we didn't end up doing it, but they have like a slingshot thing that shoots people into the air. And I'm like, I'm sure that's extra. Let's see how much it costs.
Yeah.
$70 per person
What?
to the slingshot. I'm just like,
70
70
at the state fair.
at the state. Yeah.
That's a lot. Okay, so, like, I went
doing
to, obviously smaller scale, but the, like, Papillion Days, like, their fair or whatevs.
Yeah. That was
And, like, you could buy, like, the economy wristband
Right.
situation, but it doesn't make sense if you don't have a separate area for the people who paid more to go bypass the gajillion long line,
Right.
like, wraps around the park. Why am I paying, then you only get to do one ride for more money.
right. It just takes that long. That was part of it, was the lines, and they
Yeah.
just didn't want to.
Yeah, but like big parks, if you get that fast pass,
Yeah.
they've got a different entrance.
Worth it.
And it's totally like, I will pay $100 extra for everybody to bypass everybody else, because then you get your,
Right.
your money's worth, rather than spending $100 on food because you're there. What are you gonna do?
That was the benefit of like with travel blogging. I got to go to some of those parks and get the fast pass. And we did like Universal Studios.
Yeah,
And that is very much worth it.
you need to go to Kansas Wonderland. I'm a little
That's right.
biased.
That's in Canada, right?
Yeah, it's in Barrie, Ontario, so it's like right outside my hometown. But it's I mean, my kids will tell you, they may be a little biased too, but it is a very ride-centric amusement park. Like, there's always new rides without getting rid of other ones. They just keep building on and on. And the fast pass is wicked expensive, but unbelievably, like, I can't even. Oh, it's so worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, it's a good tip. Budget for fast pass when you go to an amusement park.
Right.
Like,
Otherwise, you get like
Pack your
3
own
rides
food.
in and you spend.
right. Don't
$80.
spend money on food. Just spend it for the fat, because then you're just gonna like, okay, right.
Yeah.
But fall, right? Like, yeah, last little bit of summer.
Oh my gosh.
But I do love fall. I get a little sad when sports are like in the spring, when championships happen, like they all seem to happen like football's done and hockey's done and what else. Like, then you're just like, well, okay. I mean, I like there's baseball, fine.
Right.
I'm not mocking baseball, but it's like, I love this time when all of them start gearing back up. I have been watching a lot of rugby though lately. I really have. I watched that. It's a couple documentaries. There's one on Netflix, I think, and one on HBO, if I'm not mistaken. And it's amazing. And like the crossover of rugby players coming into American football now is super. Like that little crossover is super cool. I highly recommend if you haven't watched it.
I was just watching like the Olympics and just kind of getting into it.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, that's good.
We're like, we became like experts. We watched one game. Like, okay, I get this now.
We played rugby.
Oh, okay.
For PE.
Really?
Yeah, we'll have to do a whole episode on that thing, but the difference of PE up north and here. But we learned how to play rugby. I can't say I'm an expert. Okay. I can know some things, but it's a pretty amazing like sport. I kind of wish they did more here. Don't get me wrong, like as a mother watching like kids play it was really hard, but at the same time the way that the mechanics work, I feel like their center of gravity and the way that they coach their players to work their body in that way allows them to take the hit in a way that isn't as harmful or impactful as it would be even in full gear in like football. Yeah,
seems brutal.
Yeah. Anyways, sorry. It's a long segue.
Speaking of rugby, our guest today is Ray Harrower. Did I say your last name right?
Harrower.
I can't say
It's a tough
one. So I know Ray from Artist Athletics. I go to his gym, and Kevin and I are trying to get all.
I didn't even get that part of the story.
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah, so that's how we know him. But he's actually, a lot of people know him as through rugby.
Yeah,
and kind of go over through his background here. He's been coaching rugby for more than 20 years, including club level in South Africa, coach of the Waterford Rugby Football Club in England, and coach of the UNL men's rugby team. Ray founded Big Red Rugby for his sons and is excited to bring his love of rugby to children in Omaha now. So, speak of the devil.
Love that. I
didn't even know that you had so familiar with rugby.
Yeah.
That works out.
It's honestly, that's so funny. I didn't even put it together. I knew you worked out. At Artist, like we've talked about it.
Yes.
And
poked fun at me.
I didn't even read that part. I read rugby, and I was like, that's small world. I mean, we were just talking in the lobby before we started recording. Like, it is incredibly small, considering you both of us are transplants, even. So, yeah.
So let's talk about Big Red Rugby.
Yeah, sure.
And how long have you been doing that, and kind of like the youth league and expansion of that?
So Big Red Rugby has been in existence for 8 seasons now. So we started in 2017, I think it was our first season. And we're up to 17 teams, and we just kind of brought in a new regional sort of team this season.
Cool. And what ages?
From 5 years old all the way through to middle school.
Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know you were talking about wanting to expand it and maybe start a women's rugby league, right?
Correct.
When does that start, or when are you starting recruiting? Or
so the Big Red Rugby league itself is co-ed, and kind of how it works is when you're 5 years old to about 10 years old, you play flag rugby. So you learn how to catch and pass and run, and then when you go up 11 years and above, you learn how to tackle. We play tackle rugby.
Okay.
When it goes to that tackle, in the middle school age groups and below, a little bit below, there is co-ed rugby. But what happens is the girls tackle the girls and the boys tackle the boys. So there's some nuances in there. And then into the high school level, which there is a high school program, which is run by the Nebraska Youth Rugby Association. We entered in last season our very first ever women's or girls rugby team.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
That
really
is so
excited.
Cool.
Awesome.
And we really want women's rugby to continue to grow. If you take a look at what happened at the Olympics, for example, USA Rugby Women's got a bronze medal. And if we can get our girls playing good rugby, they have an opportunity to be an Olympic medalist as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and legitimately, like it's not like we're just saying that for any sport, but when particularly, male-dominated sports or historically male-dominated sports, this is kind of the prime time to kind of get women and young girls excited to get involved in a sport that hasn't typically included them, because then your chances of getting into a higher echelon or more of an elite stage are that much greater, since there's not too many people above you.
Right.
And in the United States too, like
States.
it's just starting to grow.
Yeah.
And the what is the name of the female player Ilone, is that?
Iona Maya.
Iona?
Yeah.
So she's on Dancing with the Stars this season.
Oh.
And so I'm like, she'll just keep growing in popularity, I think.
I mean, should.
She's awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
I think she went into the Olympics with like 900,000 followers. Came out with like 3.5 million or something along those lines. I don't know exact numbers, but
I
good to
mean,
see.
yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is kind of, I'm glad that you brought up the Olympics. I love the things that happen on the heels of the Olympics. Like, it seems that there's always something new, and then all of a sudden it's just like an explosion of, you know, popularity. Like even with volleyball, women's, how is it just like the second season of like the professional, like the volleyball league? I just think like that's the thing. I'm like, as a volleyball player myself, I'm like, wow, like I literally did not think that. I thought there was more leagues or more professional opportunities in that regard. But speaking of professional rugby, what does that look like? What is it? Okay, so talk us through kind of the tiers, like how, or the exposure, I guess. Like, is it? I kind of know the answer, but I'd rather your insight on it. But for universities and scholarships and kind of, I guess, walk us through some of the particulars of that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's very similar to the other sports. You know, you play your high school rugby, you go into collegiate rugby. Then after that, there's what we call club rugby, so men's and women's play as well. And just above that level is something called the Major League Rugby, and that's professionally played players.
Okay.
And then above that is USA Rugby, which is you can represent your country.
Cool. Okay.
So the pathways lead all the way through high school up into collegiate, into club, into Major League Rugby, into being a USA representative. And there's high performance clubs or academies that you can go into.
Right.
They have what they call ID camps. So if you think that your athlete is really good, you get sent to an ID camp and they get looked at. And if they are of qualitative nature and they think that they have the opportunity to play further, then they get invited to a next camp and they can kind of go into these squads of high-level performance teams. And that's for women's and for men's all the way through. So when it comes to scholarships, I mean, at the high school level, it's very similar to how I can relate to football because my boys played football. You know, you have this portal system, so you can actually have a player profile that you can create, and then all the colleges can see those profiles, and then they can pick from there as well. So in high school, you kind of create that. And then at the college levels, like UNL actually has a club team, and they have a scholarship program.
Oh, cool.
Wayne State has a women's and men's club.
Okay.
And they offer, I don't want to speak for them, but I believe they have some form of scholarship opportunities there. I do know that they have won national titles, but primarily in the women's side and with the men's. So very competitive in the country.
Cool.
UNO has a men's club, Creighton has a men's club, and we're trying to get the women's to continue to push through that now that, you know, if you look at women's sport, it's just blowing up. You know, wrestling is a great example of that. You know, Westside has a pretty good wrestling program. I know that because my kids go to that school. And we think wrestling and soccer combined make rugby.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I never heard that comparison or that combination.
That makes sense.
Can you
I guess
maybe walk us through rugby? Like, because some people
Give,
might
like,
not
the
know.
beginner's
About
guide.
rugby.
I don't know much besides watching like the one game.
Like even as far as like rules, how many players are on, like that kind of just a quick overview.
Yeah. So there's two styles of rugby or formats, if you will. There's 7 versus 7 players, and there's 15 versus 15 players. So if you think of, I'll use football as an example, you have 11-person code, and then you have a 7-person code. One's a little bit faster than the other.
Yeah.
It's very similar with rugby. So if you play the 15s, you play 40-minute halves.
Okay.
If you play 7s, you play 7-minute halves. So think of 7s as a really fast, dynamic game.
Yeah.
that's what we were watching, and I thought that it was just like edited for like time. Where I'm like, there's no way. Like all of a sudden, like the quarter was over or whatever, and I'm just like, this had been edited for the exciting parts, and like, nope, that was just how fast it goes.
Yeah.
And so in the Olympics,
go,
the sevens format is used because it is, you're able to play many, many games and pack the stadium and get many games played. So it's a very, very attractive product for the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the basic structure of it is run forward, pass backwards, and go score.
Yeah.
Score more than the other.
And just make sure you don't throw it forward. And you can always keep possession of the ball, similar to soccer. You try and keep possession the whole time, just keep it going, protect the ball. And then what's interesting, which I found out just learning the history of the game, is the word touchdown actually is a derivative of rugby. Interestingly, that the football code has used it, and we use the term try, which is placing the ball down on the ground. Okay. So, which I find it ironic that in football you can run and not put the ball down on the ground, but you call it a touchdown.
Yeah. Right.
And in rugby you're supposed to. So.
Oh, that's funny.
Get reversed.
I never knew that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I have some more questions here. Sure here. You focus a lot, at least at the gym, I know you focus a lot on community building. And Kevin's talked about it a little bit, and I don't know why he knows so much about rugby, but is it a big community building kind of sport? Like it's, I guess talk about that.
It very much is. I mean, I think that's the spirit of the game. You know, we at the gym and in rugby, we have a term that says train, play, bond. So you train hard and then you play your sports well, and then you as a community connect. Rugby has that spirit where you put everything you have on the field as competitive athletes, and then afterwards, then you socialize together, get to know each other. And it's very much like a sorority / fraternity where you can go anywhere in the world, and if you bring up the word rugby, someone's going to be, oh yeah, I've played, and let's chat, and they'll invite you into their home and share bread with you, and it's very, very much a community-orientated sport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. That is awesome.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Something I found very fascinating, if you in the South, like in the Polynesian cultures, I'll use New Zealand as an example. They're a powerhouse rugby community. When they embrace, they actually first, instead of, people shake hands, they will first grab the hands, bring in, but they'll touch each other's noses and forehead, and then, embrace with a hug. And I find that fascinating when you've got this gladiator contact sport and these big physical athletes, and then they just do that little moment of connection.
Yeah.
I find that really fascinating as a community.
Yeah. That is. There is I can't think of any other sport where they do that.
Is that how are like American players, does that come naturally? Because I feel like we are such almost like tribal society where like we're us against them, like on all sports teams and everything. Like especially like coaching, having coached on 3 continents essentially. Have you noticed a difference in player mentality, or is that kind of descends borders kind of like?
It's a really great question. I think it's all about how what their community expectations really are.
Okay.
I think what you find in the sport of rugby is that it starts with, the person who sort of looks after the rules of the game, we'll call it the referee. There's a very strong respect level to the referee. So in the game, you have a captain that can talk to the referee, and the other players can't talk to the referee. They have to talk to their captain on whatever they're seeing in the game as an issue, and then the captain can take it to the referee and say, hey, can you look at this? So there's this immediate respect level in the game of itself. So when American athletes play the sport, they understand what their expectations are in the game. They essentially fall in line with the ethos and the expectations of the game. So I think from a respect level, you see that just inherently get played out, no matter if you're in America or England or South Africa or what have you. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And you can see it on the sidelines with the fans as well. I mean, everybody gets, the more competitive a game gets, the more passionate people get. But they also understand that there is an expectation of, respect to the players on the field and the person that's looking after the game. And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I like that a lot. I'm curious on, I just had a thought about, typically not American games. The idea of people falling in line in the sense of really respecting the rules and really respecting the protocol. I feel, again, just my opinion, but it's almost as if because it's not an inherent, like, it's America's game, and the ownership of it in that way, it feels adopting the what's the word I want to use there? Gentlemanly, for lack of a more modern way of saying that.
Yeah.
Participation of the game, right? Like there's like historically some of the, I mean, you see it in golf, right? There's a clear understanding of how to carry oneself when watching and participating in golf, and in different games. It's the same way, but there seems to be a higher level of like, I cannot find my words, in the sense of like competition. There's a lot more rowdiness in some of the, I guess, more inherent American games. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sure does. I mean, I do remember when I first came to the States and I was watching a baseball game, and it was a professional game, and I noticed that the coaches would come up to the umpires and, kind of raise their voices and get right in front of their face. And I found that very different to how I was raised in the sports I played in South Africa. And there's a similar sport called cricket. And so that was very just different to me. And I think the spirits of the games that I played don't necessarily see that as a positive.
Right.
And so I think when the game of rugby is played here in the United States, which it's been around for a long time, by the way, about 100 years, that they understand what the expectations are, and that just is not part of the excitement is not part of that. And so people just kind of fall in line with the ethos of the game.
Yeah.
I think it's a great thing. I think it's a great thing for kids to see that, because you see not only the kids are being respectful to the referees, but you see the coaches are respectful to the referees and the administrators, and I think that fosters a positive environment.
I agree.
Whether you're playing co-ed, we're playing girls, we're playing boys, I think it's all very important.
Absolutely.
I agree. Yeah, it is.
Which is life skills, right?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that a couple times. Like the purpose of sports, right? It's not just to compete and play the game. There's serious life skills being learned there that I'm again, as an athlete, I struggle to find any equal, I guess, in the sense of that it can encompass all of those things that you have, that you're required to perform and train at a level, but also, really kind of still maintain, certain levels of, again, life skills. I am struggling hard.
But it's, like just kind of interacting with other people, your peers and your elders, essentially, like just how to behave. And so
it's awesome. Yeah. I want to talk about the gym. So
Sure.
How did that happen? So how long is the gym being open? And let's talk about that a bit.
The gym itself has been in existence for about 10 years and some change. And I've been a member for about 8-9 years of it. And then when we started the Big Red Rugby program, we wanted our competitive athletes to train hard so they could be competitive against other teams. And so we started to rent space at the gym, and the owners at the time were kind enough to, offer us that and would coach the kids how to get, strong and conditioned for the sport. And then about 3 years ago, this month actually is our 3-year anniversary of owning the gym, they said, would you like to purchase the gym from us? Because there was a lot of synergy there. There's a lot of alignment of, just the community and expectations. And because the word artiste itself is actually a Latin term for technique and form. And we believe with our rugby league, we're teaching all of these skills and want them to learn the foundation of the sport really well before you go up and get super strong, super fast, and super good at the sport. And so there was a lot of, connection there. And so we thought it was a good opportunity for us to bring the gym with the rugby, but also understand that everybody really needs for life to be healthy and fit, and it's a good way to functionally stay strong and conditioned. So.
Yeah. And one of the cool things about the gym with Ray is that every movement that we do, he'll go over it every day. So it's never assumed that you know how to do something, or that we might do the technique a little sloppy if we didn't go over it every time. And I appreciate that. It's
Yeah.
I always forget some step or something, some part of a movement. So it was always helpful to just kind of break down the technique. Yeah.
You know, and you've said, right, like you've been on this fitness journey, you've talked to me and you've talked about it to, you know, on the podcast about your experience. And I do like the idea, the whole sense of community. You have talked about the different techniques and she's literally being like, I cannot lift my coffee cup, or I am having trouble.
Today I tried to do my eye makeup and I'm just like, no, my arm's not going to do it.
Which is great, right? Because at least you know you're engaging different muscles and you're not getting used to everything you're doing. But you have said on many occasions about how you don't feel bad. There's never a feeling of like, I don't know how to do this. I'm embarrassed or I feel down or anything like that. It's a very informed, you have talked about how the guidance and the information to be able to do that has helped you guys quite a bit.
And it's a lot like team and training.
Yeah.
If you remember. Yeah. Because we were looking for like that kind of community and team and training is not quite the same presence in Omaha as it used to be when we did it. And because we would get together, like the coach would meet up with everybody for like the long run or long ride.
Yep.
And you just got to know your teammates.
We did.
And you kind of felt accountable. If you didn't show up for that long run, then you're like, okay.
But you also felt like accountability in a way of like, not in a guilt, but in
this
like,
together.
And like you knew that they had you, and it was like. So for anybody, have we talked about team and training? I don't know if we've.
I don't think much.
So I'll just do a little tidbit. Yeah. So team and training was for the Leukemia Lymphoma Society. And Kim and I actually ran our first marathons together in 2005.
Very cool.
God.
It was your idea.
I feel older and older with every episode. But we ran it in 2005 through team and training. And so what they would do is they would pick different races for the year. And you would be met with, or you would have to meet a fundraising goal in order to make that race. So to give you an example, our first race was in Honolulu in December. And awesome. We had to raise X amount of money. So we put our efforts towards raising that much money so that we could go. And then it gets donated to team and training. They pay for all of your, like they take care of all the accommodations, the flight, registration, all of it. And it was...
And provide a coach with a training plan that you could do as a beginner runner, essentially.
Awesome, and introduce you to your team. And our team, we actually had the combo of our coaches. One was a runner and one was a race walker. And so there were some people who were, but it was such a great community. And like we got to the hotel and they had decorated our, like team and training had decorated our room. They gave us like a race day pack. There was volunteers just cheering us on throughout the 26 point whatever miles, right? And like it was just a sense of a massive.
And it was great because there were other states there too, and they had similar jerseys, but not the same. But you could always spot like a team and training runner, and people just.
It was awesome.
Most people weren't like elite athletes. Yeah. But we were doing that elite kind of race. Together. It was fun.
We can talk about that race some other time. It was
really fun.
I had quite a dramatic
fun as much as a marathon could be.
It was great.
That's what's great about when you have an event or you do some form of training as a community, you have a sense of purpose.
Yeah.
And I think what's important about staying healthy and fit is having a good purpose. And if you have supportive folks that are around you to help you and guide you, but also maybe just be there as a mental support, I think it's really important. Our gym derived from the CrossFit environment. It has a big sense of community.
Yeah.
And so we foster that, and being involved in the community is a really important part of our gym as well. So you're not only training together, but you're also actively involved, in the community. We had a great workout this last weekend at one of our members' residences, and we went all there and then did the workout, came back, jumped in the pool, and had some breakfast after that. I mean, it's a great experience.
So we brought the kids to that for the first time, so they could kind of try out, see what we were doing at the gym, essentially. And
that's awesome.
That was eye-opening for them. And
I love that.
And then Charlotte was like the one that was like in the pool. There were 2 golden retriever dogs, and she like was just like she was in heaven.
Yeah.
I love
I
that.
kind of forgot that she was tired and so sore. She was just like, I'm going to go play with the dogs. And
I love that so
was a
much. So one of the other things I do is I'm a health and wellness coach. And I'm curious, one of the things that I try to focus on a lot of people do, is the incentive, right? The incentive, motivation, the initiative to kind of keep that purpose and the drive up to follow through to your goal. And I've been met with some resistance on this viewpoint. And I think I just kind of want to have your take on it. I did some research on kind of the shifting of vanity as a negative, because it's a very powerful incentive. And I posed the question to a lot of my friends in the fitness and industries, and I've gotten some mixed reviews on it. I think that wanting to look good in the mirror is a great incentive for anybody who wants to join a gym, because I think that I know if they do not, that they will find a lot more initiative in the things that would naturally come with working out, right? So yes, I want to look good is my main incentive, but then all of a sudden, I'm healthier. I had my checkup, and that's the icing on the cake rather than the flip. And a lot of fitness individuals would rather shift that messaging in the sense of, the icing on the cake is you look good, you feel good, but the health benefits it should be the main motivator. I'm curious on how you feel on that messaging in the sense of,
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I look at it more as like a compounding effect.
Yeah.
And but you have to get down to the root reason why somebody wants to do something. I think you would agree that the majority of people want to be strong and be healthy and be fit because they do want to put on a dress and go out and really feel radiant when they're out there. And that is them looking at themselves in the mirror at home in their bathroom going, I need to change.
Yeah.
Is what I've come across in terms of most people.
Yeah.
The compound effect is those wellness benefits that come with that, where your joints don't hurt as well or as much. You're able to do things that you wouldn't be able to do before. Confident levels go up. All of a sudden, the smile comes out. And then in conversations where maybe you were not confident in having a conversation, you're now having that conversation. So there's I believe it's more of a compounding effect, but it all starts from what is the root reason you want to do what you want to do for health and fitness.
Right.
And once you get to that answer, I think everybody has their own individual reasons.
Yeah.
And once you get to that, then you can map out how do we get there. But everything else then compounds on top of that once you get into the routine of being strong and healthy and fit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
don't know if that helps. Or
No,
that's
it does.
alignment.
It does. I always like the idea of get them to say yes, right? Whether it's to combat a bad behavior or to start a new one, a good one. I think wherever, I think the commonality in that is they say yes, so then run with it, right? And go with whatever is their yes, whatever they've identified as the thing that's making them go. And I'm just secretly laughing because I know that it's actually going to benefit in the way that we all want them, to be healthy. But yeah, sure, let's get you into that dress.
Yeah.
And that's I think also what you're touching on too is habit change. And how do you get to that habit change? And when do you have the appropriate conversation about a particular habit? Some folks, it's more about, I just need to show up.
Yeah.
Some folks are more about, okay, now that I've shown up, what else do I need to do? And then you can maybe have a conversation about nutrition. Okay, once you got that going, okay, what about, how is your mental capacity? Do you look for performance or not? And then maybe have that conversation if you want to be competitive in nature. So there's all these different conversations to be had. And again, I think they're compound and they have their own time and place. But getting to the first reason as to why are we wanting to feel good and be healthier, and then go from there.
Yeah, it's very individual.
It is.
And I think it changed for me over the years of why.
Kind of the segue,
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, speak to that. I like that.
Well, it was funny. When we were running and biking, it was it gave us perfect, not excuse, but we didn't feel guilty about like enjoying food then afterwards. Like if we did like a 10-mile run, then it's totally fine to go and have like we did pretty much ate whatever we wanted for lunch after that long run. And it felt great. And like, I think mentally, like mental health wise, it was like running, like kept me feeling like steady, like, even keeled. And then when we had kids, it was like I wanted to get in shape and stay in shape so that we could play with the kids. And now that they're older and we're like slowly feeling our body age, it's like, okay, now I want to work out just so that I can have a like second half of life that I can move well and like still enjoy the things that I enjoy, and maybe not to the full extent of it, but be able to do things still. Like I just see people aging, and you see a big difference between the people who kept working out or kept active and the people who didn't. And the quality of life is different.
It is.
So,
yeah, it definitely is that. It's an individual base. I mean, I'll tie it back to rugby a little bit. We talked, I think, about that lady, Yana Ma. You know, she talks a little bit about having a strong back and perhaps, you know, people not necessarily aligning themselves with that. But yet at the same time, she's walking with a bronze medal. And her performance is through the roof. She could probably out-hustle most people from that. So, yeah, I mean, just tying back to Yana Ma, I'll probably butcher her name, sorry about that. But, you know, she's a incredible athlete, and her frame is bigger than some other girls' frames, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she's not healthy and fit, you know. And I think it's all individual-based, too, when it comes to that.
Yeah, with team and training, like my goal, I wanted to do the Triple Crown. And so like the last race was the Century Ride. And on my team, we had Mrs. Nebraska, and she's gorgeous, just a beautiful woman. And then there was another, she was just out of college, so just young, 20-something. And I remember, and then there was like me in my 30s, and I think there was one woman that was a little bit older. And on our long rides, and when we stop and take a break, they were self-conscious. They were just kind of talking like in their bike shorts, and kind of self-conscious about like their legs and how they looked in their shorts. But so we were just kind of talking about how we looked in like bike shorts, and it kind of, we all started to kind of realize, and I don't want to think it was like me who mentioned it, but I feel like it stuck with me. But like our legs are they're strong, and I don't know how to say it concisely, but it was just like, this is what's going to get us to the top of, we biked in like Tahoe, and I'm like, you know, be glad that we have these like thick legs that are like going to be powering us up those hills. And it's just like, I think it took a second for them to kind of just realize that stick thin legs aren't going to cut it if you wanted to be biking, and you need to be stronger, and that's there's a beauty in that, and embrace that. And so
and I think that I love that you said that. I think the Olympics does that too. I think seeing all the different body frames and sizes, and the agility and the grace in which they can all move through their different sports is a really cool. I wish that we had it all the time, because having that kind of messaging and the commercial, the advertising for those is just so powerful. Like I wish we put the same amount of effort in the messaging that we put out on a consistent basis when we're outside of the Olympics or Super Bowl, whatever the thing is. It's like it's such a great message to send. I just wish, I mean, going back to rugby, having more women in the bigger, I guess the big draw kind of sports on a national or international kind of stage is awesome in that regard. I think it just allows, again, it's just about representation again, right? And seeing yourself in like somebody on the screen who's playing a sport, or who's dancing and singing, or who's like, you know, doing whatever, is so helpful for that mental health piece, and the acceptance of one's, like the actual acceptance of one's body, instead of the, you know, filtered mess of some messages that are being put out there. I think it's just a nice, healthy balance in that. Like, I love that. I love that I love rugby. I do. When I said in the intro about the mechanics of it, honestly, I think that that's a huge thing. I'm old, and I played multiple sports. I did have lots of injuries, but not so many overuse injuries. I had injuries because of like things that happened, but seeing young people now having so many overuse injuries because we're specializing a little too, like they're specializing in just one sport. Knowing the thing I like about rugby, and the thing I like, I mean, again, a little biased about like volleyball or different sports where we are teaching their bodies to do things that they don't normally do, in the sense of it's not normal running, right? We're not just teaching the running, going fast and then hitting at that stand up, where the mechanics of it and the foundation of it allow people developing in it to get a sense of, like, again, that their center of gravity is huge when you take a hit, when you understand that your center of gravity lower and the impact it's going to take is different from then if you then are getting hit at the same time standing up. The impact and the possibility or opportunity for injury is lessened, right? And then it just takes it out throughout the rest of your life. I think that that's a awesome thing about having that developmental stuff for young and then up.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I can take that to a sport specific example, but also to a life specific example. When we talk rugby, we do focus heavily on the mechanics of how to make contact, how to make sure the head is out of the way of the contact, because that's where a lot of unnecessary concussions can be made. And then using the placement of the shoulder, the leg in the position it's meant to generate the most power and not put it in a compromised position. And if you can make that what we call your habitual state, so that when you're in a fatigue environment, you default to what you know best, and it's a really good technique, you're going to be way better off than if you were flying in using bad technique. And what we've had to do, especially with players who come from, say, a football environment, and I got to say this, USA football has done an incredible job of adjusting the mechanics to getting the head out of the game. Than it has in the past, and they're moving in the right direction. I just wish there was more marketing pumped into that to really showcase the shift in the game. It's really, really important, because both sports are incredible sports, both contact. But, just getting players who perhaps have yet to learn the mechanics as well to change that habit and learn that habit well, I think will really help all of the football programs and obviously rugby programs. We just did a rugby tackling clinic at one of the high schools in town, one of the football teams and the high school teams from freshman to senior. And then they did a scrimmage, and then I asked them, well, how did that go? And they said they saw good, bad, and ugly. And the ugly was more just bad mechanics situations, and the good, they saw an improvement. And that's really what we want to see, is the improvement of the habit of the mechanics of the movement. But back to life, we don't do a lot of lateral movements. We do a lot of north-south movements. We train that at the gym, where you are using those certain muscle groups to stabilize the body. So as you age well. So if you trip and fall off a curb, you can catch yourself, versus tripping, falling, and then hurting yourself because you're not moving in a good enough manner to be strong and stable.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's very critical, mechanics-wise.
Yes, it is.
To know how to stabilize and strengthen your body and functionally move well.
That's
which is kind of what we try and teach. Is when you go sit on the bench, you don't need a crutch to get up. You can just get up.
Yeah. Right? Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm trying to think of ways that I have some friends that stopped doing sports once we left high school, and they're trying to get back into some stuff, and they're finding that it's not as hard as they thought it would be to get back into it, and we talk about muscle memory and everything, but they're moms, and they're just like, why do my kids have such a hard time with specific movements, right? Like they make fun of their kids, like walking into corners or walking into like tables, but there's a real concern in the sense of the spatial awareness and the ability to the lateral movement of it, right? To to even just dodge in a quick moment is like, it's like catastrophic. Like the table's over, like they're just like, what happened? And we were like totally thinking about it. And our recesses looked different. Like I remember doing double dutch at recess. I remember like playing, like, I mean, Red Rover, a little, dangerous, but still, we were like, we were essentially training over those like 10-minute, 20-minute, whatever, those lengths of period of time. I wonder, how do you feel in the sense of play? Are you finding when you work with like the younger kids, are you finding that that's similar? Like, are they, I don't know how to say this. Like my one friend, she's like, they don't know how to run. Like they
like natural athletes almost are like just.
Right. Like we ran at recess. They don't, she's like, my kids don't run at recess. They go to the playground and they stand and they talk. There's no running. It's almost like they're not allowed to run because there's so many kids. So like you cannot run in that area or you're going to knock somebody over or there's no field. Like we had fields. They were like, anyways, I'm curious on what you.
Well, I'm definitely in alignment with you on that because I have a belief system that as our generations continue to grow and old in our school systems, we don't foster enough sporting ability in our time during the day. And I think teachers may be feeling that in the classroom because the energy that is needed to get out is perhaps not getting out as way it could. In addition to that, with technology moving the way it is, you're finding a lot of kids kind of hunched over and not necessarily spending time or wanting to spend time recreationally moving and playing and being creative in their environment. So I think we have a bit of an issue in society on that. And that's why I think sport and strength and conditioning facilities play a very integral role in our youth to make sure that they are able to, with their cadence and the run and how their foot placement is and all that athletic type of run should be, actually now coached a little bit.
Yeah.
And so that they can do that, where before it was perhaps a little bit more instinctual because they just did it.
Yes.
And then sports themselves, our biggest thing is there's this focus to be the best of the best, but what about the rest? You deal with the 10% or the 5%, but what about the 80, 90% of folks? And why aren't there these platforms of sports available recreationally? And I know they are in multiple sports, but a huge focus to play those sports and play multiple sports. So you learn how to jump high, how to jump far, how to move laterally, and how to have that spatial awareness that you're talking about. And, I talk to my kids about in school systems, you have organized sports, and when that school system is over and you move on, it's not there anymore.
Right.
So why not take the time and take the opportunity and use it wisely and play with and try on all these different things. You meet friends, different friends. You learn different disciplines, different life skills, and you learn to do things you never would think about doing.
Yeah, and have fun.
And have a ton of fun.
That's a big thing about it. It's like just the fun part. I played, fun fact, I played my first volleyball game. So I played volleyball and I played for years, like sand volleyball in town and then indoor. But then those teams went away and I haven't found a new team or anything. But I played last night with my new team, who just happens to be my son and his friends and his girlfriend with like what, and it was so much fun. And then I got to coach them a little bit at the end of it because I'm like, you guys are like 6'3", like just jump and hit it, right? Like it was, but it was so fun. And then I went home and I wrote this whole little thing, but I was like really honored to be asked. Like, it's really cool that my son was like, we need you to play on our volleyball team because we're not that good, right? And I was like laughing, whatever. But they're great. We won. It's fine. But at the same time, I was just like, that is super cool. Like, I felt super, super honored to be like, the mom being asked to play on their team. But it was like, the camaraderie of it was just so fun. Like they were just my teammates last night. So it was really, although I did kind of yell at my son a little bit, that's a hard thing to do, is play with your kid when they're older and get out of that mindset of like, just jump, what are you doing? But yeah, and the whole thing was like, they're just like, yeah, we're just having fun, right? And like, it's such an important piece of it. And like, yes, the competition, and yes, the wanting to do something with it. And if you want to go school to do it if you want to go pro. You know, the training and the amount of time invested in that. Yes, cool, focus, but like the fun part is huge. Like when you get in your head so much, you just your performance just goes off because you're just not enjoying it anymore, right? Like that. It's almost like we should have a class or have coaches on enjoyment as these kids grow older, since you know they're not playing so much at recess. Let's teach them how to find joy in movement again, like in that sense. But
there's a fun test to do.
Yeah.
You know, my youngest kid's like, oh, I don't want to go work out today. And then he goes and does a workout. I go, how'd it go? And I just listen. The next 5 minutes, he can't stop talking. Dad, I did this, I did that. Did you see how much weight I lifted on this? I jumped this high. And, you know, all the endorphins are kicking in, right? Which is a natural thing to happen.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so there's the test, is when you put a kid into a sport and you put him into a workout type of environment, after that exposure, to listen and hear it from him, and you hear those endorphins kicking in and you get the excitement and the fun comes out of it, right? Yep. It's all natural.
It's awesome.
And I think we need to do more of that to keep the kids having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, fun is really important, especially, you know, from middle school and down, where you have so many opportunities. If you don't let them have fun in their sports and you're too serious, you know, what are we trying to teach our children?
Right. And I think it's in anything, as an artist or in learning itself, like to put the fun back in, the productivity would go through the roof. I think we just have to dial back in the fun a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And confidence kicks in too.
Always. Well, because that, you know, when everyone's enjoying it, you forget about all the stuff you're thinking. You forget about the bike shorts, right?
Right.
And you forget about, like, am I playing well, or did I do that right or anything? You're just having fun because everybody's just in a state of like an elevated, like, oh, it's all good, nice try, you know, whatever. And then you just keep going, and you want to do better for yourself, but you want to do better for these people who are just like so awesome to hang out with, right? So it's a whole, again, another compound thing, right? It's the community is then the byproduct of the fun, right? Like it just happens naturally.
This year we, in the Big Red Rugby League, we opened up a Tri-Cities league, and those families and kids were incredible because they came and traveled virtually every weekend down to Omaha as they were trying to build their league up to come down and play with us. And one of my favorite comments from the parent was, you know, we've tried our child in this sport, and this sport, and this sport, and for whatever reason, they didn't feel there was a fit. And they went and played rugby, and he or she doesn't stop talking about it. And that, to me, is, I think, the spirit of the sport and the beauty of the sport, in that you're constantly busy, you're always involved, and it's a team environment, and people pick each other up and help each other out. And to me, that's the testament to good sport, is that kids just have fun.
Right,
and they want to do it again.
Yeah.
And then you know you've got something good. And so.
Well, sounds like you're doing that with fitness too. Because honestly, like, I've heard it from her, and I didn't even know when you and I were talking earlier that that's the connection. But yeah, I mean, it's like anything. Make it fun. People stick with it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we need to make sure ladies feel safe and comfortable in, you know, work environments. I get a lot of comments about it's so intimidating to come into a training facility because there's this image issue, right? And just making sure, come in, bring a friend, work out with your friend, and have fun, and you'll be okay.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Let's bring it back to Omaha a little bit. We kind of
when you're not doing rugby and not at the gym, what do you do for fun? What do you and the boys do?
Well, we enjoy music, so we try to do music venues. You know, La Vista's got the Astros got a nice little spot out there.
It's great.
Then some festivals coming to town, like the Maha Festival. Love that. Food-wise, there's a nice place in Blackstone called Mula. Nice little, you know, Spanish or Mexican restaurant. We think that's pretty cool. And then, you know, some recreational things. Mahoney State Park is pretty cool to go check out. You know, just events like that in Omaha. There's always something going on in Omaha. You just got to kind of look around.
There is.
You know, my oldest, there's skateboarding. You know, back in the day, skateboarding was a thing for us.
Uh-huh.
And he picked up skateboarders using it, and he goes down off Dodge, I forget which area it is, and there's a skateboarding competition going on.
Cool.
Yeah, there's...
It's
I think
great.
it's called Skate Fest. They do stuff.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
be creative.
Skate parks
Yeah.
around town.
back,
I love it. Yeah. Yeah. Back in, I mean, I don't want to assume anybody's age, but you'd go into like an empty pool or like around the old like hockey arena where you could just, try. But yeah, we never really, it was all, places you weren't supposed to.
Wow.
We would empty the pool and try and skate in the pool.
So good. That was so fun. I
didn't skateboard.
it was so
I
good.
did not have the balance for that.
I bet you could do it now.
I got it. I'm still working on my balance.
That should be
We'll
one
check
of our
back.
live shows. We'll do. I mean,
I've gotten better balance, but I wouldn't go so far as to say
we'll see.
skateboard balance.
We'll play rugby
Right?
and then go skateboard.
Okay.
We actually had a parents' game. We have a parents' game or adult game.
I love that.
In our championship weekend.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun.
I love that. I think the kids, honestly, my sister, she lives down in Joplin, Missouri, and they do like a parents' game for like my niece's volleyball team and stuff. And I mean, there's a couple of them that have played volleyball that kind of in college, and they kind of get into whatever. Which I was like, I don't want to do that because I swear I'd be that parent, especially if it's indoor. Like I'd be like, that's like whatevs, and then really want to play well. Like not
Just
to compete,
serving
but just
aces
'cause, like,
and just like
let's just like destroy the children. But they, the feedback was that they like the kids just love it. And it is almost like another like, oh my God, I can't wait to get to the end of the year when I get to see the parents play. Like it's a particularly younger kids, right? To stick it out like the whole season, because then we get to see mom or dad, whoever, play afterwards or whatnot. But
the kids' field day, they would have at the very end, the parents took on the kids with tug of war, which I think that it was fun, and we'd always win. But I think other sports we could have done it too, just because, especially 8th graders, and they just feel like they're the strongest and they know everything. And,
I mean,
and I'm just like,
they do.
And we come out and we're like, the moms are all in like their heels and flip flops and stuff, and we're still like, still just yanking them across the line.
Oh,
it's
that'd
so
be
satisfying.
so fun. So satisfying.
Like I think it was in a dress, and I'm like, oh, I got to do it.
Yeah, you do.
I just have to.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Oh my gosh,
it's cool. So right at the end of every episode, we ask our guests the same question, and no right or wrong answer. But where do you find inspiration in Omaha?
Where do I find inspiration in Omaha? I have to say the music in Omaha is very creative. I think the music group in Omaha is very creative. So downtown, there's a bunch of venues there that have bands and things of that nature. Kind of get some creativity out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Any bands coming up that you're going to go see?
That I'd like to see. Trying to actually, not in Omaha, we're going to try and do something in Colorado. I saw one of my favorite bands, Dropkick Murphys.
Oh, nice.
Here at the Astro.
Okay. Yeah.
Really enjoyed
I had
that.
some friends that went to that one. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Astro's great.
Is it the amphitheater or the indoor part?
It was the amphitheater.
I love the amphitheater. The indoor, I'm kind of like, I think we just had bad seats, but
there's a concert this Friday. I wonder if I don't know if it's inside or outside. I think it might be inside.
I don't know. But the outside's awesome though.
The outside is awesome.
I also, on the weekends when things quieten down and not so busy, there's a few little parks you can run around, lakes and stuff like that. And I kind of I can walk, I can run, I can kind of think. And those are nice places to get creative.
Yeah.
Any favorite parks or like which ones?
Zarinsky Lake is one of them. There's another one in Papillion. I'm trying to remember the name of it.
Is it Walnut Creek?
It's Walnut Creek.
Yeah. It's a nice one.
Kind of get some
Zarinsky was the one that we had to run a lot. That was our long run.
It's a good place to run a long run.
I like the west side, the more tree-lined. No, the smaller one.
The smaller side, yeah.
Yeah.
So the 3 mile, there's 4 mile and 3 mile or
something like that. Yeah.
I like that that
Are
smaller
they done
side.
construction in that way? I think they are. There was a lot of construction on 168th. Well, the one entrance
I don't know.
on the other.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do love Zrinski. That's a good one. We were at Louisville Park swimming in the lake over on like this weekend. And I love the little nuggets of
That park's improved.
goodness. Yeah.
With the little concession stand and stuff.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Have you been to Louisville?
No.
It's great.
It's cool. So they have the beach, like a sandy little beach, and then nearby is an inflatable obstacle course.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of fun. It's an hour straight of just like, it's probably the best workout. Like
Seriously?
it is.
Yeah.
It's fun. And then it was new for us, at least since I've been there, but there's a concession now that has ice cream and actual food, and you can rent bikes and
the big
inflatable stuff and
bike.
so they didn't used to have kind of an outfitter, but now they do. So it's a cool.
Yeah.
Not far from Omaha.
No, it's great.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of new development happening, creating some, trails around lakes
Yeah.
in Omaha, and that's great. Get people out. Doing
Yeah, I
stuff.
love it. Well, is there anything else that you want to say that you didn't have an opportunity to say or plug or?
Just grateful. Thank you.
Yeah.
We would love to see more ladies playing rugby, and would like to see folks staying strong, getting fit. And if they ever want to, get a hold of us, they can go to our bigredrugby.com website or artiststrength.com for the gym. So
Awesome.
yeah, thank you for allowing us to be on your show.
Absolutely.
This is
Oh,
great.
I didn't put my hat on. Thank you for the hat. I don't know if it's my big head's gonna. Oh no, it'll be fine. Yeah, I meant to. I know it's good. It's got a little ponytail thing in the back. So good. Thank you so
All right.
much
Thank
for
you.
coming on.
Thank you, ladies. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks for listening to Oh My Omaha, the podcast. We want to thank our guest, Hurrdat Media, all of you for your support, and the Omaha community at large.
So from D&I, keep on exploring.